Good evening, council members. My name is Ricardo Urena, known by Rich. I am the new captain assigned to the West Valley Patrol Division. I'm replacing outgoing Captain Rick Sung, who got promoted to assistant sheriff as of August 1st. I look forward to working with the council to resolve some of the public safety issues that have been raised here. I've been talking to my staff about some of the concerns, and I think we're developing a plan to start working on some of these concerns that have been raised here today. I had the opportunity yesterday to attend a community meeting with Vice Mayor Emily Lowe. I had a chance to talk to the residents. I heard them and their concerns, and so we're working on addressing those. And like you mentioned, Mayor Capello, we do have some community events coming up, and I'm looking forward to continuing to talk to our residents about their concerns.
Great, thank you. And from what I understand, we're going to take an informal process associated with those meetings because we found in the past that more of a question and a response, more of a dialogue is more beneficial to these meetings. They lend themselves really nicely to communication with our public. And so I appreciate you taking that approach for us. Rishi.
Captain Urena, welcome.
Thank you.
My apologies. I mispronounced your name earlier today, so my apologies on that. And, there is something I would like to bring up with you. You and I, we have talked a couple of times. And, firstly, I think you have an amazing profile, and we are very lucky to have you. So welcome. And I looked at your profile, and then I did my little social media posting, letting our community know that we have a new captain in town. So it's great to have you. Now, there is, like you heard, I think there is a lot of concern from our citizens, about crime. There has been a spike, and if you look at the numbers, there is a spreadsheet that has been created by a citizen that is logging basically every single crime activity from the crime report that is published in Saratoga News. And so we see a total of $1.9 million. That's the statistical data this year. $1.9 million worth of stolen goods, and then about 100 plus break-ins, which is significantly higher because back in 2014 we had 98, then last year we had 125, and then this year we'll exceed that 125 number because we are at 100 plus today. So, I've had many meetings, and when citizens are anxious, they basically come and tell me that our sheriff is not doing anything, you city council is not doing anything. And my take is, no, we are doing something. Because the question I asked them is, do you read the Saratoga News? And a few people will raise their hands. And then I say, do you read the sheriff report in there? And a couple of hands will say, and I say, do you read that we are catching people every week? And some of them will nod their heads and say yes. So the thing is, and I tell them, we are catching people. We are catching folks every single week. And how does it happen? It happens because of proactive citizen reporting. It's very hard to catch them after the fact. But if you're proactively highlighting suspicious behavior or people who are potentially up to no good, for example, I tell people that if they have a hoodie on a very hot day, long sleeve shirts, they are using their long sleeve shirts to not leave fingerprints. So that's a dead giveaway. And it doesn't mean that you see a teenager walking around with a hoodie means, that teenager is up to trouble because, we just have to be careful. But the more proactively we report, the better the chances of our sheriffs catching these bad guys and putting them. So every week we see 2 or 3 of those, and some of them happen because of your proactive team, and some of it happens because we report. But I'll tell you, the one thing that I've consistently heard in almost many of these meetings is when our team shows up, and I texted you that night when there was a break-in in my neighborhood, and we were talking about it, and the impression was, you have very capable staff. You have very capable staff. You have a great team, and they are very diligent about capturing all the information. But what happens after? And the feeling is that we're not doing enough to follow up with that or provide some feedback to the home where the break-in happened in terms of what the status is and what else are we doing. So the feeling is that, okay, we have 100 break-ins, but can we do something more to catch some of these guys after the fact can we go show up and take fingerprints, and what else can we do? And sometimes what people have told me, and I'm just expressing you the sentiments I've heard, is that there is a reluctance to take fingerprints because we may not get anything. Now, I agree that your team sees this day in and day out, and you have seen hundreds and thousands of these scenarios. But when a neighbor is impacted, it creates a lot of angst. And that angst typically turns into anger, which is what is going on today at Nextdoor. There is a lot of anger that, why am I the victim? And yes, I need to protect my home, but someone else needs to be doing their part. So I would love to get, you are new to our city. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I would love to get your thoughts in terms of, what our citizens are expressing, that we are not doing enough to catch these bad guys.
Certainly. Thank you for your comments, council member. So every case that we have is different. And every situation that we encounter has a different investigative manner, if you will. So I can't answer a question unless I really have all the specific information. What I can tell you is that we do have detectives. So let me backtrack a little bit. So when we investigate one of these residential burglaries, by training, by the first day that our deputies go out and train in how to investigate a residential burglary, they should be taking fingerprint. They should be lifting latent prints. So I'll make sure that that's in fact still occurring. However, once we investigate that incident, the patrol deputy does, it goes from there to the detective division. And so when the detective division gets the case, there are certain protocols that they follow, if you will. What happens is they start working on 2 or 3 cases because they have evidence and they want to make sure that they capture these suspects before they commit another crime. And what happens is sometimes these cases do wait a couple of days, a week or so, before they start working on the cases that they don't have evidence on. So my recommendation is, if residents feel that my office isn't paying attention to their particular incident, to please call our detectives, have that dialogue, talk about why is it that the detective hasn't reached out to the homeowner, what else can the homeowner do, what can we do collectively so that we can reach some kind of conclusion with it. And so the phone number for them is 868-6600, 408-868-6600. Ask for a detective, and they'll look up the case, and they'll have that personalized conversation where they can answer some of these concerns that you've raised.
That is very helpful. I do have a follow-on question.
868-6600.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And the follow-on question was related to, there's a very active Nextdoor thread, and I hope you're already on it because there's a lot of interesting discussion that your team might be privy to. But the question was around cameras. There is a lot of talk about surveillance cameras in Saratoga, and would love to get your specific thoughts in terms of, would this help? And specifically, if you're able to capture images of folks who are peeking into homes or trying to break in, is there like a process like matching algorithms where you send the image through a screener and it spits out names, addresses, things like that? I mean, what is the kind of technology? How would it help to have surveillance cameras, in capturing images?
Are we talking about home surveillance cameras?
Anything in general,
So the recommendation is that people do protect their property. Part of that is to purchase a surveillance system. Absolutely. I have one where if somebody walks in front of my camera, I get an email. And all I do is look at my phone and see who walked in front of my camera. So that tool is extremely important for a detective. Having been a detective working here in the West Valley station for a few years, I know how important that information is. So to that extent, I do believe that those cameras on private property positioned in a certain direction, certain place, so that we can capture people coming up to your front door, walk into the side gate, even the street, if you will, in front of you. Those are extremely valuable for us. So we do recommend that people do purchase those types of systems to help us in trying to solve some of these cases. Absolutely.
And the question is, would it help you capturing these images, videos? Would it help your team catch some of these bad guys? Would it be helpful from that perspective?
From obtaining the video from a homeowner? Absolutely.
It would help. Okay.
Howard?
I want to dovetail. License plate readers were a real bugaboo 2-3 years ago. I mean, all the way to the point some cities have deployed them on like their garbage trucks, so they read the license plates of every car parked on the street. Are we using license plate reader technology in the sheriff's office any place at this point yet?
We are not. Not that I am aware of.
Is that a passing fad, or is that something we still think is going on?
I do believe there are some law enforcement agencies that are using those systems. I am not aware of an agency in this county that's using that system, but I do believe that they are.
Okay, and then while we're on cameras, I just got to ask body cams. Yeah, it's just a big thing in the U.S. right now.
Sure.
Not that we expect those sorts of things to be super big and relevant thing within our city. You guys have cameras in the cars, but you guys are not using body cameras yet.
We are not using body cameras yet, but we will be.
Okay.
And that's coming up. I believe there was a board meeting today, county board meeting today that discussed body-worn cameras.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then my last question, we used to be the top or one of the top city clear rate or whatever where you actually solve the crimes. Are we falling in that ranking, or are we not clearing as many crimes in our city, or are we still one of the most solved crime cities?
Well, I can tell you, Councilmember, that we're one of the safest cities in the state, if not the country. As far as solvability of some of the cases that we have, I don't have that data in front of me.
Somewhere at our annual meeting, that was one of the stats that had come out in the past. And at one point, I know we were the number one that the sheriff's office had. I don't know where we fall. And then the sheriff's office actually, you guys have a higher solve rate than the local police departments around us, be they small or large. So
we definitely have a good staff that do good work. And as Councilmember Kumar mentioned, about taking fingerprints, latent prints from certain areas of a property. I'm surprised to hear that a deputy doesn't do that, because that's our direction. That's my direction.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting techniques that you guys use that I don't want to talk about on the video.
Thank you.
But you guys do a great job of catching people. And one other just sort of side comment, or maybe it's just more of an observation. Just because we catch the guys, or girls, because they are, we're not getting back that much stuff. My CDs were stolen, they were gone. And my money was gone too for the identity theft. The bank had to give it back because they were the ones that the fraud was really against, but they didn't get the money back from the guys. And so our citizens' expectation is should be, I think, that you're probably not going to get back the stuff. But hopefully the guy or girl will be in prison. Is that a correct assessment, or do you think we get more material goods recovered?
It really depends on which case we're investigating and which case we solve. But we do in fact find property that has been stolen from our city. We have found a lot of property that's been stolen from our city. I personally found a lot of property that was stolen from our city when I worked here as a detective. So.
God, you guys never got my Boston CD back. Those were my questions. Rick, I really want to say thank you. The job that you're in, I think is challenging and demanding, and we may be one of the safest cities, but I think we have very high expectations as a city, and Proposition 47 has just tied one arm behind your back, and so we recognize that this is a challenging opportunity for you and all your deputies, but over the years, you guys have consistently done amazing work for our city, and I'm proud of all that you've done, and we look forward to more collaboration.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Captain Urena. Appreciate it very much.
I did have one more, if I may.
Another question?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And that was, based on what Howard mentioned, that what we have heard from people is typically they are using stolen cars to break into homes. They steal a car for the purpose of stealing, and so if we had license plate readers that would basically scan it and then verify, if this is a stolen car or not, that might highlight and alert your team that, hey, we have a stolen car in Saratoga, they are up to probably something bad. Now, would love to get your thoughts in terms of what would it take for us to have a system. Is it going to be sitting inside a sheriff's car, or it could be installed on street corners? What's your take on that?
I'm sorry, Councilmember.
License plate reader scanners, Yes, exactly. So how could we use license plate scanners in Saratoga to highlight stolen cars? Is it possible for us to do that?
So what I can tell you is that though that system was or has been used or is being used across the nation, in the manner in which they use it is a vehicle that is being driven around that captures license plates. And so I think that's the most common way that cities gather that data, if you will. That is a mobile way to capture vehicles, yes.
I should point out, Rishi, a lot of the implementations are less real-time than what you're thinking. So they drive the garbage trucks around, and then they spot some cars that are suspect. Eventually, a police officer ends up out there to figure out this car is a problem. And I'm not aware of many implementations or any actually but they probably exist, where it's like real-time. Every car that goes by is being scanned, and then you can say, oh, that one, instantly, like a speed trap, except for it'd be a bad plate trap or something, where they know so fast that the motorcycle cop can then pull out from behind the tree and pull over the car. But I do know that they have been effective in neighborhoods where there are a lot of wants and warrants, and there's a specific license plate.
Okay.
There's a lot of
you,
interesting
Captain.
techniques, and I didn't mean to catch you off guard, and I'm sure
not
Rishi
at all.
didn't mean to catch you
Not
off
at all.
guard, but these are all hot topics in our city.
Well, I look
Yeah.
forward to working with the council.
Yeah, as you can see, this is something that's near and dear to our heart, all of us,
Absolutely.
in terms of the importance of it. And I look forward to our future meetings. This is a great conversation, but we need to engage with our community as well, so that they can learn these things alongside us. And so I look forward to those meetings. Thank you very
Absolutely.
much for offering up your